Since the day President Obama signed national health care law, Congresswoman Michele Bachmann has been on the warpath fighting it. She thinks it's lousy for the country. She's a former tax lawyer, so what does she think about the $500 million being quietly sent over to the IRS? Congresswoman, nice to see you.
It's good to see you, Greta. Great to be on.
All right, well, it's no secret that you don't like the president's national health care, but I'm curious, this $500 million that's being transferred to the IRS to implement programs, including the individual mandate, how does that happen? Is it outside the ordinary appropriations process, or is this the normal way it's done?
No, it is outside the normal appropriations process, but it is a part of the Obamacare legislation. In fact, it's far more than that, Greta. In the Obamacare legislation, $105,464 million was put into that bill for the overall implementation of Obamacare. Now, that's going to go to a lot of different things, and this year the Obama administration can't wait to shove almost $500 million into the coffers of the IRS because they're doing everything they can to get Obamacare up and running just in case the Supreme Court decides to make it go away.
All right. Well, I'm particularly annoyed these days about the way funding is done and the way money is spent in Washington, and so I'm curious. And maybe, maybe you're not the right person to ask, but I'm curious. Like, you mean this $500 million, this $500 million to implement the mandate and other things, and of course we don't know what's going to happen in the Supreme Court. How do they even figure out these numbers? How do we know it's not $600 million or $200 million or $7,000? I mean, how do they come up with these numbers?
Well, I'll tell you what's even more profound. When the Obamacare legislation passed, Greta, if you did a LexisNexis search or a Google search, you won't find one newspaper story about the $105,464 million in implementation money in Obamacare. Nobody even knew that that money was in there. How can Congress pass a bill that has $105 billion in it? Nobody even knows about it. That's how out of control this is. So this $500 million that's being transferred to the IRS, they can do this. The Obama administration can do it. It's in Obamacare. It's legal. But what people need to realize is it isn't just the Health and Human Services Department they'll have to deal with in the future. It's the IRS that's going to be breathing down their neck when it comes to health care. So give me a break. When people have a problem with their health care, are they going to pick up the phone and call the IRS for help? But it's the IRS who are the enforcers in the future when it comes to this health care debacle. That's why Obamacare has got to be repealed. It's got to go.
Well, I don't think a lot of people are big fans of the IRS on either side of the aisle as a practical matter. So they may not pick the best government agency in order to be part of this. But let me turn now to Vice President Biden. He's hitting the campaign trail in New Hampshire, and he's going to be talking about the Buffett rule. And I know you're opposed to it. Why are you opposed to it? It only affects a very small portion of Americans. If you have to earn $1 million and that you have to pay 30% of your income earned or unearned, I guess.
Well, that's right. I'm a former federal tax litigation attorney, and one thing that I know about tax law is the top 1% of income earners in this country pay about 40% of all taxes. 1% of income earners, 1% of Americans pay 40% of all taxes. Now, the interesting thing is when they want to put that rule into effect, that's effectively going to wipe out all exemptions, all deductions from these people. Now, it's really important to know, too, that the top 1% of income earners pay about a 30% effective tax rate now. That's because a lot of their income comes from investment income. So they pay 30% because we have the highest corporate income tax rate in the world. But now President Obama plans to double the rate of investment tax, which is called capital gains tax. When you combine that together, we're going to see far higher than even this 30%. What President Obama is engaging in right now, Greta, unfortunately, is dividing the country based on how much money we make. Instead of focusing on that, what people call class warfare, we should be focusing on how do you create more jobs and how do you have higher paying jobs? And the way you do that is having job creators keep more of their money so that they can put it into the jobs. He's going to create taxes higher on how you create jobs, and that means lower jobs, fewer jobs, and lower wages.
Well, the thing that I'm looking at the numbers, is that if you raise the revenue on that group, the Buffett rule, that you'll raise about just under $47 billion a year. $47 billion. Our deficits are $1 trillion a year. So it's, no matter which way this falls, is that this Buffett rule is going to go. It's going to be like a drop in the bucket to try to solve our more profound problems, structural problems in our economy, in the way we collect taxes. I mean, it's a far bigger problem than this.
Oh, you're exactly right, because what this will do is give President Obama a bragging right that he's somehow being kind to the middle class by sticking it to the wealthy. But the fact is, it's the wealthy who are the job providers in this country. And what all of us need to recognize is that under President Obama's policies, come January 1st of 2013, less than a year from now, you're going to see a giant sucking sound of jobs and hundreds of billions of dollars of investment money leaving the United States, going to India, China, South Korea, Brazil, places where they're changing their tax policy to be tax-friendly for job growth. Shouldn't we be the best tax climate for job growth? Instead, under President Obama, we have the worst tax climate to create jobs.
Well, we certainly need to do something, but I'm going to take the last word on that. Congresswoman, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Greta. It was a pleasure. Thanks again.
Great.